super sport performance. MG Pilot Smart Speed Assist. 10.1-inch touchscreen. Custom ambient lighting. At $35,490 fully equipped and 7-year warranty. This is value you've never seen before. The all-new MG HS, the SUV you've never seen before.
Action! Joe Ingles, welcome to Gibbo Goes One, driven by MG. Mate, how are you? It's been a long time since I've seen that beautiful face.
Good. Obviously just kind of got back from the playoffs and bowing out in the first round, which was a little disappointing. But obviously flip side to come home to the kids and Renee, and it's kind of 30 degrees every day here at the moment. So just to be outside with the kids, kind of live a pretty regular, quiet life. So yeah, it's been nice to be back.
Typically, you'd probably come back to Melbourne. Obviously, Melbourne's in lockdown and the isolation, so you're choosing to stay in Utah with the kids in school, and it's just easy to stay there for now?
Yeah, obviously, even if we were able to kind of get back in and get there, we can't see anyone or do anything anyway. So I'd be doing this on Zoom or FaceTime to people anyway, being 6 kilometres away from them. So yeah, we just decided to stay. Like I said, the weather's beautiful here. We're very comfortable in our house. The kids are really comfortable. Like you said, they're in school and stuff every day. And Renee's coming up to 30 weeks on Thursday. So even for her just to travel and have to be back by the time she can't travel anymore is kind of pushing it anyway. So we figured we'd stay here, and very, very comfortable here. It's kind of home, really.
I want to talk about Renee, absolute superstar in her profession. Obviously, you're both professional athletes, but to play for the Aussie Diamonds, the Vixens, the Thunderbirds, like to play, I guess, netball at a high level must make the household somewhat competitive. But for her to go from, you know, playing to having the 2 twins and then back to playing, and like that must help you a lot being a professional athlete as well, to live in that kind of lifestyle and to see everything that she's done.
100%. It's actually really nice when, like, she would come over and I'd finish whatever we finish over here, and I'd head back and she'd be in season, and I'd get to almost kind of swap roles and be kind of the stay-at-home dad, and she'd be off to training and doing all that. And on the flip side, obviously coming back here and her just having that understanding of if I stay late or need to get extra treatment or anything like that. Just having that obviously kind of competitive understanding. She knows there's days that I need to stay longer, or I'm away on a 10-day road trip. She understands kind of obviously why. And I mean, I've never seen, I don't know if there's been many women that have come back 8 months to the day after having twins to play professionally again. But watching that was pretty inspirational, just to obviously getting a pretty close look behind the scenes of what she was doing and how hard she worked to get back. And then be able to finish with the Vixens, which was kind of a dream come true for her to play one more year. And the kids are at a really cool age where they could kind of sit there and really understand it. And they loved going to the game, sitting there in the last game that she played. It was, she had a pretty unbelievable career over 17 years. So she's not missing it. There's days that she wishes she was there and playing games and doing that. But also really content, like I said, with what she did throughout her career.
How hard was it early days? Obviously, she was in Australia, you're overseas, like that whole, you know, living apart for a little, you know, small patches of time or big patches of time, and doing that whole long distance. And then obviously, you know, being pregnant, she was able to live together with you. But early stages of that separation. Yeah,
it was, I guess it's just weird when you're used to that kind of comfortable person. Like you have a bad game, you have a bad day. She was the one that I would complain to, and if I thought this coach was screwing me, she'd be the one I'd complain to. And it's different when you're waiting up till 2 a.m. in Europe to be able to get on the phone in the morning when she was waking up. And at that stage, she was rushing off to practice or whatever anyway. So it was, I mean, it was tough, but I think in the long run, in the back of our minds, we knew that kind of what we're doing today would be the end goal. And probably not in Utah, we never thought, but being together with our family and the kids and all that was always the end goal. And it's always I guess there's a journey with every kind of relationship, and ours has been little bit crazy, but yeah, I wouldn't really change it for anything. And now with a third kid on the way, and yeah, about to get extremely busy.
The impact, I mean, I'm sure you probably would have seen it with, young netballers coming through, but all athletes, I'll watch your videos now, and she's obviously heavily pregnant. How many weeks? Like 35 weeks?
Yeah,
or
30 this week.
30 weeks pregnant, still working out, looking after the twins. Obviously, you've been away. Like, just, I guess, how she works and trains and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's millions of people that do it all around the world. Obviously, we know her a little more personally, but to see her do that must be like a fair inspiration. And like you said, you probably come home and think you've had a shitty game of being screwed over, but she probably at some point kicks you up the bum and just tells you to move on. There's bigger issues.
Right away. I think having kids in the first place does that to you. It really opens your eyes to what really matters. And I can come home now after a bad game and go in the kids' room, give them a kiss goodnight, and know that I'm got to get to sleep because I'm going to be up in a few hours' time for breakfast. So, but yeah, what she's done. It's funny, we were talking about it the other day, like even in the first pregnancy when she was feeling tired or sick or we really just couldn't be bothered, we would just kind of sit around the house and relax, where regardless of kind of how she's feeling now, she's got the twins and she looks after me quite, she's already well trained for 3 kids. So, yeah, she's an inspiration for everything she does daily. Like you said, she wakes up at 6 o'clock every morning and she's in the gym before I've even got out of bed, and then the kids' school lunches are ready and she's ready to go before I've even woken up. So, yeah, it's I'm very aware that I'm a very lucky guy.
It must have been unreal to, first of all, to find out you're pregnant with your first kids, and then to find out it was twins must have been a real shock to the system to know you've got 2 coming and not 1. Like now you're buying double of everything, double the strollers, everything.
Yeah, it was wild. Even crazier too, because Renee had just signed a new 2-year deal at the time, and I had just as well signed with the Jazz. So we were kind of just preparing to do that same thing we'd been doing. She'd come over for a little bit, go back and play in Adelaide and kind of finish out her 2 more years. And yeah, so a bit of a surprise, but an awesome one. And then, yeah, you go into the room for a scan and they tell you there's 2 heartbeats there, which is different. But then, yeah, I mean, you just, obviously at that point you embrace it. You just do whatever you have to do to be prepared as you can. And we actually end up having 4 of everything because we had everything in the States and everything in Australia and Melbourne for when we went home. So we've got a lot of baby stuff, which this new little guy won't have much new stuff because he'll get all the hand-me-downs from Jacob. But yeah, unbelievable feeling, and something I'd always wanted to do. I'd wanted to be a dad since I can remember. I remember telling Renee really early on I was going to try and I wanted to have kids and have a family kind of as soon as possible. Obviously, knowing she was a professional athlete was going to be tough. So, yeah, now to be in that world and the twins are 4 and we're only kind of a few weeks away from another little boy. So, yeah, really exciting. It's there's nothing better.
They say athletes have girls, so that's why you're about to have a second boy. Now, now obviously, there's highs and lows, I'm sure, with being a parent in world in general, but obviously little Jacob was diagnosed with autism. It's obviously been pretty well documented, but that for you is probably the hardest news that both you guys have kind of had to deal with in your whole life, to find out that the little man, has autism.
Yeah, I think at the time too, probably harder than obviously now. And I think the thing and why we're so passionate and the awareness that we try to push out is, I think people think of kids or humans with autism and kind of automatically think negatively. Like it's like an automatic thing. There's something wrong with this kid or this adult or whatever it is. And that's a big reason of why we try to push out the awareness and the understanding, because Jacob's unbelievable. Like it's, I'll never forget coming home that day from the hospital and we'd just been told, and driving home and car was silent. Jacob was in the back of the car and we were just kind of sitting there, and I think Renee said it a few times. Like we were prepared for him to be diagnosed or autistic, but when the doctor's kind of sitting like we are and they actually tell you, it's like, oh, yeah. It kind of really hits home. And I remember walking in the door. Renee's parents were with us at the time, visiting, and I walked in the door and I saw her dad, and for whatever reason, like he didn't even say anything, and I just started bawling my eyes, crying. And it wasn't even the fact that I was like disappointed or embarrassed or anything like that. It was just like, yeah, like you said, you have kids, you just kind of never expect anything to happen. Like Jacob broke his arm the other day. We thought he was never going to break a bone in his life. It's like things happen as parents, and things happen to kids. So once we wrapped our head around, I mean, by the next day, Renee was on the phone every day trying to get him the best therapy that he could get, whatever we could get him into. And we've gone from, 6 to 8 months ago, a little boy who hadn't said a word to today, kind of not shutting up and putting 3 words together in a sentence now, which his kind of trajectory has been unreal. So the therapy center he goes to here has kind of been a blessing in disguise. It's like anything, you put your kid into a school and you obviously hope, or anything, sport, basketball, whatever, you hope you're doing the right thing for them, and you really don't know until they dive into it. And we threw him in there and had some concerns because it was taking time to kind of see results. And then like that, it was like it all kind of clicked for him. And he's been a totally different kid. And super proud of him for kind of where he's got to. But still a lot of work ahead.
I'll get to what you've done in your career and whatever basketball wise, but to hear him speak for the first time, must have been one of the proudest moments you've ever been a part of. Forget the Olympics and all that stuff. Like to hear your son speak for, I think, a couple of, maybe 2 years until he kind of spoke, must have been an unbelievable feeling.
Oh, I'll never forget it. It's, having the kids in the first place, like seeing them born and holding them was like something that you can't, I don't even know how you explain it. It's just one of those feelings that you don't really, it's like, it's not like winning a championship or anything. Like there is like, it's not even in the same world. And and then it was funny because we had Miller on the other side, like talking so much and just developing so quickly. And that was why we ended up kind of going to the pediatrician in the first place, is to say, hey, our daughters, and they always tell you not to compare boys and girls, but it's hard when you've got twins at the same age and you can see the kind of rising difference. And to hear her kind of speak for the first time and walk for the first time and crawl and do all that, and then kind of, I guess you delayed with Jacob, so it's like 2-3 years or whatever it was, 2.5 years, and then to hear him actually say it and pronounce it, that like he would kind of babble and you'd like babies do and whatever, but to hear him say dada and like mean it and look me in the eye, and now it's like unreal. Like he like I said, he doesn't really shut up. He's like talking all day, and he's only got a kind of a certain kind of amount of words, but yeah, just doesn't stop talking. And like I said, super proud of him, but he's still got a way to go.
Obviously, you've had a lot of support, and I know you guys have organised, I think, for the USA Aussie game in Melbourne, the Century Rooms. I know the Jazz do it now. It must have been cool. I think April 2nd's Autism Awareness Day. And I think April 2nd you played the game. I think the crowd had the rally towels. All the players were wearing, shoes kind of designed and customized around autism and Jacob and a bunch of that stuff. I think the Jazz donated $5,000 per assist that you had. I think you had 5 assists in the first, I don't know if it was first quarter.
14. Yeah. I can tell you that much.
like that must feel amazing to one, have the support from the Jazz, but to have a special day or more awareness around it for Jacob. And
and the crazy part, which not many people probably know, we've actually been doing the autism game for a while with the Jazz, and they've had, and I've played in it before, but like I said before, like when you're not directly affected by something, we were always playing the game, and we'd talk to the kids, and we've got an unreal organization that is really good with stuff like that. But then obviously being touched by it myself, you really dive into trying to help other people. And we're so lucky, obviously financially, it's so expensive, the therapy that these kids and adults have to go through. So a lot of the stuff we do with 4ASD kids in Australia, with Matty Rogers and Chloe, his wife. It is unreal, and it's for funding for these families and kids and centres to get more kids in, or some of the situations to help a specific family and just get that kid an opportunity to kind of get what we can give Jacob or what they could give Max at the time.
Yeah.
And then, to be over here, and I mean, I never, I was playing in the NBL with you. I never thought I was going to be playing in the NBA and have by the end of my contract, play 8-9 years with the Jazz, and let alone then have the 20,000 people cheering for Jacob. Really, like it was pretty unreal. There's a whole section of kids there, but you could just feel how much importance it was to that night for me. My teammates knew it, the organisation knew it. My teammates were unbelievable that day and night, just knowing that I was a bit of a mess leading up to it, and the Jazz themselves donated a couple million to some foundations and charities here in the States, and just to feel that love, and then to play the game. It was to be able to have a whole kind of the whole state of Utah kind of jump on your back and support you. It's something, like I said, it's just something I never ever thought would happen in my career.
Yeah, I was watching all those videos of the shoes and everything. Like, it looked amazing. We'll talk more about the Jazz a little bit later. Let's go back to AIS. I found an old photo of 2005. Now, hell of a squad that was put together in Canberra
back then.
You had a lot more hair. A lot of us had a lot more hair back then. Benny Allen reposted about all the lows that we had. Clearly weren't barbers. Spiky hair was in. You had the big helmet head. But, I think 4 NBA guys, Nate Jowai, Baines, Patty, yourself, like pretty much everyone went to the NBL or...
Yeah.
I've asked a bunch of people, but starting out, I was one leaving home, Tassie, for the first time to go and live with, 11 other athletes similar age, not knowing what's going on. I consider the AIS a mini Olympics where you got other sports,
sure.
Netball, soccer, everything like that. How was that for you, kind of leaving home for the first time as a young skinny kid going to play?
Yeah. I think I was about 66 kilos back then, so I was definitely the skinniest kid. I remember when one of the first things we had to do pulling in was take a photo just in your tights or whatever, so over the years you could see you changing your body or whatever. It popped up somewhere the other week, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't look well at all. But yeah, I mean, I was the same as you. I was an Adelaide kid, hadn't really left Adelaide. And I still, to this day, like, I don't know how true it is, but I think I was pretty much the last guy picked in that out of that group. I always was like, okay, like I was solid, but I was never I was never a standout. I remember Marty was sitting courtside. We played WA Metro, I think it was, at the under 18 nationals, and I had like 40 points or something. And I was like, that was probably the only game that he's ever watched. And I played well. And kind of looking back, I'm so glad I got the opportunity to go. And not really only just because of the bar. I missed a year with a broken foot, but like like you said, like the guys we had were unreal. The friends we made, guys that I still talk to daily now. It is pretty cool. And then, I mean, I would argue with anyone that we had probably the best group out of guys that like played for Australia, where their careers went, how long their careers went. There's only a couple of us, I think, when we were there that went to the NBL, especially my second year when I think it was, there's only a couple of everyone went to college, and just a really special time. I mean, I'll forever say how important it was for my career that I went there, and the development, the school. I mean, I wouldn't have finished year 12 if I didn't go there. I know that for sure.
Well, it was the other stuff as well, right? The learning how to cook. I don't know if you got like learning how to cook, how to write a resume, like life skills, how to wash clothes, like all the life skills as well. I found a floppy disk that was like my resume back because it was that long ago. I was like, I can't clearly put this into a computer no more, but like learning how to do all these other things as well. I know I've definitely, I mean, Mum taught me a lot, but all the resume writing and life skills, I think, was super important as well at that young age.
And I think what gets past a little bit is like when especially the couple of years I was there, like we had such a good group of guys, which can obviously change your experience big time if there's guys you don't get along with, and it's very different like going in as a 16-year-old, like you said, leaving home, we've left our parents, which have pretty much done everything for us up to that point, and you're trying to make new friends. You're like, yeah, we're still all competing every day. Like, I'm trying to take your job and I'm trying to start for the AS and play your minutes. And there was just never any tension between the guys that we had there. Everyone got along super well. We all, I think in the back of our minds, we all knew it was like a stepping stone for our careers, and that never got overtaken by the fact that we were competing and playing hard. And I mean, for me, Marty and Gary were like kind of like father figures, really. Like, they were the guys we looked up to. They told us off when we were doing the wrong thing, when you hid your TV in your big box with the fake lid so that you could have a TV in your room. And we thought we were so smart, and Marty's told us now that we got away with the stupidest things that he knew the whole time. But yeah, that whole experience for me was unreal. Even my second year, breaking my foot and not really getting to play. I think I only played a couple games that year, but probably the best year of my career to get in the gym and get ready. And I knew in my head I was going to go to the NBL, so trying to get my body ready to play against men in 6 months' time was, amazing experience. Wouldn't mind going back there one day with the same group and see how it is.
I reckon we'll win some games. I agree. Marty and Gary were certainly father figures. I mean, we're with them 24/7, 3 times a day, some days. Life lessons.
Cooking for us on the road. I remember, like, when we drive to a C-ball game and they'd be cooking like this massive amount of pasta or whatever just so we could eat. And I'm like, he's our head coach. He's cooking, probably burning in the food. We probably didn't know back then, but like burning the food, and unreal experience.
I had Marty in Adelaide, and he tells stories about, like you said, we thought we got away with stuff like me hiding my TV back in the box, cutting a hole for the cord to hide down the back. I thought he knew the whole time, but I thought I got away with it. Like, he tells me these stories, and unbelievable way to start, I guess, a career in basketball and sport and whatever. But from then, obviously, you went to the Dragons. I think growing up, 2 goals were to play the Olympics and play with Adelaide.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Adelaide situation is pretty well documented. The offer, and, wrong position, wrong name, whatever. But you signed with the Dragons. I think probably the best move you've made as a young kid, to go to a new club. Mark Cowan and the ownership group, I think, one of the best, couple of the nicest people you'll meet. I know you lived at their house. How was that as a young kid going to Melbourne and playing with that team for the first time?
Yeah, I think the craziest part for me was that whole experience was with a broken foot. And I felt, I really felt like in the back of my mind, wherever I went, I really had to like kind of pay these guys back, because they signed me with a broken foot. Like, who knows what could have happened. Could have come back not as good, never the same. Like, you just don't know. And I was pretty close to, I was talking to I went to visited basically every team, I think. I still remember walking into the Brisbane Bullets. You were at the Brisbane at the time, and I walked into the office, and I'll never forget, I walked into Eddie Groves or Van Groningen, whoever was the GM, and the door like lifted above and went into the roof, and I was like, walked into, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I getting myself into? Don't even have my driver's license yet. But I mean, I was pretty close. I really liked New Zealand and the owners there. The Blackwells, I think they were back then. They were unbelievable. I loved my Brisbane visit. Adelaide got scrapped pretty quickly after what happened. And it was the night before. So I decided, like, on the whatever Saturday I was going to make my decision. And it was like the Friday night that Cowan called, and decided to fly over there on that weekend, and same thing, in crutches, and visited his office, which he still has to this day. And went to his house. I think I hung out with the other owner, Ruffy, for a little bit as well. Ended up just thinking it was going to be the best decision. I probably went in a little immature in terms of, like, there was no coach at the time. I was the first player signed. So it was like, looking back now, like, I probably would have done a lot more research, or asked more questions, even like who there was going to be the coach, or who they were trying to get as players. But I guess at that age, I was 17. I didn't care. I was getting offers to play in the NBL, which I'd always dreamed of. I'd always loved Melbourne and was intrigued by it. And just thought, screw it, I'll do it. And like you said, I think it was one of the best things I've done in my career.
Well, you say you wanted to pay him back. You certainly did that in your first game. 29 points, the highest scored by an Australian in a debut game, 11 to 15. Like,
still not beaten.
I
don't think is it ever going to get beaten. Let's be honest.
I don't think it will. A lot of people pop up and they think they might beat it, but to come in for your first game, splash.
Let's not get it twisted. I've never even talked about this because I don't really care if it gets beaten. But I just turned 18 when it happened. I'd never played a professional game. It was my first ever game. Like, that team was like Carlos Powell. I think Kirk Penny was on the team. Phil Jones.
Yeah,
they were like, Paul Hanare was like full court, beating me up the whole court. Like, it was a legit team. But these guys come back, like, now they've been 4 years at college and they want to try and claim that they're like, come on now. Like, it's not getting beaten.
You're talking legit, straight out first year rookie, not
after a broken foot.
Not rookie at 24 coming back from college. Like, I think Wertho did that one year. Wertho came back and got rookie of the year. He went to college.
He was like 36 and played 8 years professionally in bloody Europe.
I don't think you should be a rookie if you're that old. But
yeah,
that must have been pretty cool to come in for your first game. And obviously you guys had a couple of tough years, your first 2 years, coaching changes, Hammer took over. Talking about Hammer, actually, obviously I talked to Madge about him and his workouts he puts him through, and just such a smart basketball play, basketball IQ. I remember having him as an assistant coach at Welds, and loves guards, and that's awesome for us because to get the big men, like, get the guard shots, just pass to the guard. So I love working with Hammer. But talk to me about your 2 years with Hammer.
Yeah. Again, it was kind of that decision to go there, and then to find out he was coming. I watched Adelaide, Brett Maher, Mark Davis, these guys kind of growing up. But then obviously I knew Shane Hill very well and was like, holy, like, this is going to be awesome to learn from him. Like you said, like, being a guard, I was probably at that time like a 2-3, didn't really know what I was, kind of thing. And just his, like, I know a lot of people, he's fiery and he's demanding. But for me, it was like he really took me under his wing, and extra workouts, extra shooting. I'd shoot with him after practice and before practice nearly every day. I don't think he would love to hear this, but I don't think I ever beat him, which is still to this day. So he would be pretty happy with himself. But no, he really did. He took me under his wing and kind of really guided me. It was probably him and Jacob Holmes were the two that really kind of we'd kind of stolen Jacob, I think, from Adelaide or whatever at the time, and he was in the prime of his career, and I think he was captain those first couple of years. So having those two guys kind of be my kind of mentors as a 17-year-old was I couldn't think of any kind of two better people at that age with their careers up to date. So two unbelievable people. Shane definitely helped me a lot with that development stuff, like really knowing, like, figuring out what it takes to be a professional. I didn't have a clue coming from the AIS. Like, we'd cruise around and do whatever and then rock up to the game and see ball, and we had so much energy, it didn't matter. We were going to play hard regardless, but just that day-to-day, like, lifting, recovery, eating well, extra shots, like, which I never thought would probably end up kind of leading me into kind of where I am today. But it all started back there with him.
Obviously, not a lot of success first 2 years as a club. I mean, no brand new startup club's going to come out and just win from the jump, right? Like, we went through with the Phoenix, like, great start, but everything happens. You don't have the right personnel. So year 3, Dragons make a bunch of changes. They get the best coach in NBL history in Brun Gorgon.
Best team that ever assembled.
The Brisbane Bullets, I think 2 years before, is the best. But so Gorge never goes into a fight without being locked and loaded. So he brings in, Worthington, Bacona. I think Matty Burston was still there. I come from Brisbane because Brisbane just folded. Reece Carter. Mika, big time player for New Zealand. And then
Nick Horvath.
Cortez was there. He gets injured. Trammell Darden's our import. We were going to sign Ebby Ura, but we get Trammell.
Reese, Herbie.
Christmas comes around and here comes Dante Smith. Like, team went from 5 and 25 the year before, I think, to 25 and 5 the next year. That's one of my funnest years I've ever been a part of, on court, off court. But how much fun was it going from, a couple of losing years to then winning the championship the year after?
Yeah, unreal. I think that first year we finished 8th and got smacked in the first game of the playoffs or whatever it was, and you probably I was so young and probably thought we were going to win the whole thing. But like looking back, it was like we probably really never had a chance. But to make it and do that, and then we came bottom my second year, which was horrible. Yeah. And obviously, yeah, like you said, when you get Gorge isn't coming to be a development coach, and like he is great at that, but he's coming to win. And yeah, just having the team we had, I think for me it was like at the start a little bit daunting. Like, not that I thought it was my team, but I was a leader in that group, and I was like, I've been playing well, and I'm like, man, I ain't going to touch the ball now. This is going to be like very, very different, but obviously awesome as well. And again, it was like kind of like that AOS feeling, like we all meshed so well together, played so well together. Like you said, it was so much fun. We had fun off the court. We had fun on the court. What was it called back then? Whatever the arena was called back then was
High Sense
packed out. High Sense was packed out, and we had a great fan base for kind of coming off 2 pretty average years. And I mean, that's probably more credit to all you guys signing, because you guys were all very established in your careers by then. And yeah, I mean, it's actually funny. I've talked about this with someone else, but pre-Dante, like we had Cortez Groves at the time, and like we were killing with him as well. Like people think Dante came in and he came in and really just kind of took us to another level. But we were like, I don't know what we were like 15-2 with Cortez or something. Like we weren't. Everyone kind of feels like if we'd kept Cortez or he hadn't got injured, then we might not have won. Or like we were killing with him, and then yeah, Dante came in and just kind of took us to another. I still remember his first practice at High Sense, and he was this big fat. He'd come from wherever he'd come from playing that year and been cut, or he left or whatever. And I remember like Gorge looking over. I think we were doing like sprints or something, and he was like this fat, really like long arm, like but fat and slow. And yeah, he took a couple of weeks, and then he got into shape and was unreal. He changed our season.
I think he came in around Christmas time, and I think he just had knee surgery or partial knee surgery like 6 months ago. So he was still getting in shape. But I tell you what,
so fun.
It's not hard to get in shape when you play for Gorge. And I feel for the Hawks boys. You know, I'm sure he's changed a lot in 10 years. But the amount of times he said one more for a 3-hour training session every day.
We're going at a fart.
Or one more. A 2.5-hour session goes to 3+, and it was all right when you're like early 20s. But
yeah, I was cool. I was fine with it, but you guys were all later in your careers. But
I was a year older than you, but if I was doing that now, there's no chance I'd be able to keep up.
No, that was, like you said, it was one of the funnest years. Obviously, like winning helps that. Like we were winning every week. It was like we'd plan our week leading up to it because we were so confident that we were going to win anyway. We had fun off the court as a group. We all kind of hung out that year. Like it was Herbie would come stay at your place and live between Geelong and that. Like everyone was just really close. Even like Dan Dillon and that, I think they were development players.
Yeah.
Were always around us. Like it was just a really fun group to be. And then obviously to top it off by winning in Melbourne against Melbourne, who we all hated at the time. And yeah, just to win it. I probably a few of us have kind of talked about, like, I think if our whole team came back and the Dragons were there, I think we all would have probably gone another year around with that group.
Yeah.
Once it folded, I knew myself personally was going to look for other things in Europe or whatever, but it would have been really fun to go back around. I'll argue with you that I think our team was better than the Brisbane team, but you're on both of them. You'd have to pick a team first.
I was on both. Now, it's hard to go past a Brisbane Bullets team that wins like 21 games in a row. Like, that's pretty impressive.
The league wasn't as good back then.
It was 2 years before. I played the same Tigers team 2 years later in the finals. Like, it was, So it's a tough trade.
We were maxed out at every position, though. Like, we were stacked. When you've got your American, like Nick Horvath, coming off the bench, who was killing years before that, I don't know. We were good.
It was tough. Obviously, the league was going through change then. Dragons fell over. We chose not to be a part of the new league that was moving forward for whatever reason. You left, and I know you've kept a close eye on the NBL in the 10+ years since. And obviously, since Larry's come back, the league was in a bad spot there for a while. A bunch of years, teams going under, folding. Gold Coast folded 3 years later.
You run all those teams.
I was, and I can put my hand up now and say I didn't take all the money. That's for damn sure. I wasn't. My pockets aren't full, let me tell you. But obviously Larry came in 5 years ago, I think it was now. The work that he's done, I found this out the other day. Hungry Jacks, who are a naming rights sponsor, I think they came back in 2017 as a naming rights, which is 30 years previous to when they first signed on. So I think the work that Larry's done, the games against NBA teams in preseason, the growth that it's shown, you must have kind of watched that from the outside and just been super impressed with what the league has done.
Yeah, I think when I had first left and like you leave, obviously the Dragons folded, we leave, and I'm like watching where all my friends are signing because it's you're still close. We just won a championship like a month ago, and now you're all signing with different teams. I'm living in Spain.
Yeah,
it was kind of hard to watch because I'd like still to this day I wish that team had gone like at least like one more year together just to see. I think we could have won it back to back and 3, 4, 5, like however many we would have won if we stayed together. But yeah, I mean it was hard watching the NBL playing, being Australian, living in Spain, and I'm like trying to live my dream of like getting better and playing in these best leagues and all that. But yeah, like watching teams you guys are playing for folding and teams going down to whatever eight teams at whatever point, and then new team comes in and they fold again, and obviously Larry's come in like you said and has really taken it to another level. It's I mean I remember playing these NBL teams in the games. We always played them with Utah, and like these guys, it's probably a dream come true to be on an NBA court, to play on an NBA court. Like they're later in their careers, they're obviously not going to make the NBA to play against Rudy Gobert for whoever it is, to that center to come up and play him, and someone have to guard Donovan in an ISO, which is miserable. Yeah, like it's just something I don't think the NBL probably ever envisioned, but for Larry to get it done, unbelievable to bring 3 imports in and have that competition just keep getting better and better. And yeah, like I said, I still watch a lot now. Like I said, I've got a lot of friends that still playing it. My soon-to-be brother-in-law, Kyle Adnam's still running around out there. So I like watching him and kind of supporting him. I've had a ton of teammates. Like I played with Bryce Cotton. I played with Griffin, who went to Adelaide. I've played with a lot of guys that have ended up going over there. So had a lot of questions from Americans before about going over there. And obviously I pump it up as much as I can. And flip side, like playing Torrey Craig and James Ennis and these guys in the regular season, it's as far as I am away in America, you kind of never lose touch with like every time I saw Torrey, we would talk about the NBL and Brisbane and all that. So I was, yeah, I'll always support it. Might come back and play one day, depending on how old I am by the time I'm done. But yeah, it's an unbelievable league, and yeah, I mean, I just hope this pandemic doesn't kind of change too much. I hope it can still keep kind of rising like it was, and yeah, I'll forever be watching.
I think it's just given just a profile of the NBL now. I think it's so much better. Like you said, guys like TC, Torrey Craig playing in the NBA, and vice versa, Bryce Cotton, and guys actually want to come out here. Like for LaMelo Ball, for example, come and play in Australia. Like just boosting the profile of. And I think it's going to help the young kids now coming through for that pathway to now the NBA guys will start looking at Aussies that play here and be like, oh, yeah, he's a good pick. Like maybe we could get him instead of having to go to college. Yeah. I think more guys will want to stay and play in the NBL.
And one of the reasons the Jazz loved playing the NBL teams was always like the scoreline. Some of the games were probably ridiculous. There was a couple close games, I think, over the years, but it was always kind of 15-20 or whatever it was. But Quinn Snyder, our coach, would always say, like, regardless of the score, they would just play so hard. And for us, it's the perfect situation. Like, we need, if you play an NBL team and you get up by 20, like they're throwing, at that point, you've got like 20-some guys on your roster. Like, they're throwing the last 5 guys in and probably going to cut them the next day. So they don't really and you just kind of lose the competitive. So we end up, like, the guys who are in the roster, you end up only getting to play 16 minutes or 20 minutes, where we were playing Perth or Sydney or whatever one year, they were full court pressing with like 30 seconds to go. We're up 20 and we're like, come on. But that's a big reason these guys love playing. It's just that never give up, which is what you get from any Australian, really.
For sure. You obviously went from the NBL, and I know once you're done and you're retired and you look back and to say, obviously you went to Granada, but to say you played with Barcelona and Maccabi, two of the bigger teams in Europe, like I think you'll look back on that once you're done and be like, shit, man, like I had a pretty solid career. But, you know, how was it first time going to Spain? I know you're with Granada and then Barca kind of took you from there. That's kind of how that works. And to be part of that team and then to win a championship with the Euro Cup or Euro League with Maccabi must have been awesome as well.
Yeah, I didn't really know much about Europe before going, and I was at Summer League and playing with Golden State, and we'd finished the game, and my agent came and tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You got a couple of offers." There was one from Italy or something, and this Granada team, and I'm like I don't know, I've never heard, like, it's like coming to Utah. Like, I never thought I was going to live in Utah. I've never heard of Granada, so I did a bit of research, and the only kind of thing I went into Europe was that I wanted to go to a situation where I was going to play. And funnily enough, like I played with two Americans, guy Richard Hendricks and Jimmy Hunter. Richard Hendricks had been drafted by Golden State and was kind of stashed over in Granada, and 40-minute game. And me and him led the league in minutes. We were playing like 39.5 minutes a game that first year I was there. So it was all I could really dream of. I thought I played reasonably well playing in the ACB, which is kind of arguably one of the best leagues outside of the NBA, and playing against Barcelona, Madrid and Malaga, all these big teams, and then playing EuroLeague against Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, all the kind of top teams was, just something playing Granada, watching the EuroLeague, and then getting an opportunity the next year to get taken by Barcelona. I remember my agent called and was like, they're going to buy you out if I'd started my second year with Granada, and we'd actually played Barcelona like a week or two before, and I had like 25. We smoked them, and a few days later I had a call like, "Hey, Barcelona wants you," and I was like, "Really?" I was like, "If I just played better on them the first year, I might have been there a year ago." And he was like, "Oh, we're negotiating the deal," and I'm like, "I don't care what the deal is. Like, I'm going. Like, they can pay me $1. Like, I'm going. Like, to get an opportunity like that, I was never going to let it slide." And ended up, getting a 3-year deal, or like 2 and kind of 3/4 of that year, which was unreal. We won the Spanish League twice, won the kind of mid-season cup twice, made the EuroLeague Final Four a couple of times, and lost in the quarterfinal. But that was my first probably experience of being with like kind of like a mega club. Like, we were training at the same place that Messi and all these guys were rolling in these wild cars, and I had this silly rented like 1994 Audi. But yeah, just an unreal club, unbelievably professional. Again, like, played with guys that I still talk to this day, still see when we go to certain places. I catch up with the Americans I played with. Then by my last year, I was very confident and well aware I wasn't going to re-sign there. I'd kind of fallen out of the rotation a little bit, and was ready to kind of move on, and had basically narrowed it down to Olympiacos. I was probably going to go to Olympiacos, and then David Blatt was coaching Maccabi, and so kind of narrowed it down to those two. And Blatt kind of just had begged me to calm me. He really wanted me to go. I was kind of like that last piece. They had their whole roster, and he just kept saying, "I think we can win EuroLeague," and I was like, "Shit, that's all you had to say. Like, I'm in. Let's go." So I went to Israel, which I had played against them, so I knew what I was getting myself into. And the stuff you see on the news and the stuff, like, it's not like that at all. It was, Renee and I still say to this day, it was like one of, if not our favorite place we lived. We lived on the beach. The weather was beautiful. The food was amazing. The people were awesome. Sold out like 25,000 seat stadium every game. And then obviously, again, like the Dragons, like, when you're winning, life's pretty good. So we rolled through EuroLeague, got to the quarterfinals. I think we beat Milan in the quarterfinals. I don't know if anyone's seen the highlights or anything, but got lucky against CSKA Moscow in the semi-final. We double teamed him. The guy threw it and it hit the guy's knee. Tyrese Rice got it, laid it up on the buzzer to win. Which if he'd just hold the ball, we would have fouled him and he would have shot free throws. Like, it's pretty crazy. And then went to overtime with Madrid in the final. And they were favourites by a mile. They had all the superstars and the Spanish guys, and we were a pretty kind of low-key team. Really good players, but just like very good across the board. We didn't have one player that was a standout really. And we played them well in the regular season. We were both like 1 or 2 point losses. And all we kept saying was like, if we just keep it close, we'll get them. Like we just need to keep it close. Kept it close, obviously close as you can get going to overtime. And then overtime, I think we ended up winning by like 10 or 12. We had some guys just Tyrese Rice was MVP. And funny thing as well, kind of like the NBL, like as soon as we won the EuroLeague, I knew I probably wasn't going to go back to Europe. Being there 5 years, I was kind of mentally and emotionally kind of over it. 10-month seasons, the grind of it. I was ready to move on. So played out the season. We still had the Israeli league to finish off. We obviously won that. We were one of the only few teams to win all 3 trophies of the whole season, which is pretty special. But just knew I wasn't going to go back. So had put all my pennies into either the NBA or I don't really know what would have happened, but I probably would have just seen myself kind of back in the NBL probably.
We would have got you back to Adelaide, Matt, I reckon. Obviously, the NBA now comes knocking. I think you did pre-season with the Clippers. I think, because I've seen you play since the Clippers didn't want to keep you around or sign you. Obviously, you signed with the Jazz. But your games against the Clippers, I think because you were with them, I know guys chop and change, but you've had some pretty decent, solid games against the Clippers in the past. Do you think that's because you've been around them, you know the system? I know they're all probably pretty similar, but bit of a chip on the shoulder that they brought you in but didn't want to sign you. They moved you on. With I feel like your games you've had against them have been really good.
I never went into the game like, oh, I hate these guys. I want to how dare you cut me? Like I was a 27-year-old, okay, average European player or played in Europe, whatever. So I never held a grudge, but I always it was a bit of extra motivation. You want to prove any team that's cut you that they made the wrong decision. And I was pretty lucky, I guess. I always kind of got to play against them. I had some good games. Beating him in that first round a few years ago was pretty special. They had this exact same team as what I was there with. So to beat them with a kind of a new team that I'd been picked up by was pretty special. And then to kind of build on that for the years to come. But I always liked playing them. But Doc was awesome. Doc was very open throughout the whole thing. Was very well aware of if I was going to, he'd told me the day before, Jordan Farmer broke his finger or thumb. The other guy I was fighting for was a point guard. And obviously going into the regular season, you don't want to be as good as Chris Paul is. You can't play 48 minutes, 82 games. So they kind of had prepared for that. And I understand it. And looking back now, it's worked out perfectly well, really.
We've obviously talked about the Jazz. I know you love it there at the Jazz. I know you're a bit of a cold hero there now. I would assume you would like to play out the rest of your career in the NBA with the Jazz. How was it? And I've heard a podcast you've done before, but the adjustment to playing 82 games. I know Europe's pretty tough in 10 months, but your first proper season playing, getting through 82 games as a proper, full-time player.
Very hard. I'll probably my GM Dennis Lindsay, or he's president now, but was GM at the time, and he was the one that kind of brought me over with Quinn Snyder, and joked about it then. But I was like this little chubby kid from Europe. It definitely wasn't physically or fitness wise definitely ready to play 82 games, and the schedule that's 4 games in 5 nights, 6 in 10, whatever the schedule was. So. I hit a wall my first year, around Christmas time, I think, and was struggling a little bit. But, you know how it is you kind of find a way each game, whatever it is, drink an extra coffee or whatever it is, and get yourself going. But I knew that next off-season, which I signed a new 2-year deal that off-season, I knew I had to be fitter if I wanted to play and keep a job. So I worked on that. I actually dropped a fair bit of weight, dropped some body fat, and was able to kind of get through it. I think it was halfway through my second year or something was the last time I missed a game. So it's been a while now, and obviously that is kind of learning learning what you need. I think over time in your career as you get older, me and you were talking about the other day with your calves and stuff, like you figure out different things that you need to do to, and as you get older, you wish you knew it 10 years ago. But you figure it out along the way, and yeah, just little things that have helped me. I kind of hold on to very tightly now.
I know, obviously, every teammate you play with, you become mates and good mates, but it must have been nice to have Dante, kind of a little brother in a way, another Australian for you in future. I know he's moved on, but he's obviously has invested interest in our Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, which is awesome that these NBA guys are investing in our teams down here, which we love having him a part of us in the Southeast. But to have him with the Utah and another Aussie there to be around every day, obviously he's had some incredibly bad luck injury-wise, but to have him there must have been good.
You're awesome. I think for me, there was a lot of reports when I first came that I was like basically brought in to be like the big brother for him, and he was the 5th pick and like helped guide him and kind of be a support network for him, and ended up playing a ton more games than him. And obviously, like you said, a bit of bad luck with injuries, but yeah, it was awesome. And a lot of people probably don't know, but leading up to that, we were actually roommates already. So I knew him with the national team pretty well, being roommates with him. So knew what I was kind of getting myself into in terms of like being there with him and trying to help him. And yeah, I mean, obviously still now like very young, very, very talented. And I think he'll, like we were just saying, like you figure out things with your body and stuff. And he's got all the attributes to be a really, really good player in this league for a long, long time. So his only thing has been a few injuries, and even his injuries, like a few of them were the freakiest. Like one of them, he went to rebound and someone took his legs out and he landed, broke his collarbone or whatever. Like some of them were just things that you can't really control. So yeah, I wish him obviously all the best. It was awesome to have him here, and same thing, catch up with him a lot when he comes here or we go to Cleveland. So yeah, big year for him. I think he's coming up contract year this season coming up. So yeah, he'll have a big year.
My favourite, obviously Jordan, but my favourite player is Kobe. Obviously, he tragically passed. And I've taught you a little bit about his final game, and obviously you're a massive part of that. Talk to me about, I guess the lead up. I don't think the game mattered so much result-wise because another team won before that. But being a part of Kobe's last game, the whole show, I know you guys are given shoes and obviously all the celebs, and obviously he took like 80 shots to get 60 points, but just being a part of that game and guarding Kobe and all that stuff was cool to watch. I'm assuming it was pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah, we'd found out about an hour before our game that I think it was like Houston won or something, so we couldn't make the playoffs. And I remember Coach coming in, and Coach was really close with Kobe from his time when Quinn was in LA, and he kind of just come in when we found out we couldn't obviously make the playoffs, and was like, we're not going to prepare. We're just going to go out. We knew our system by game 82, obviously. So we're just going to go out there and play hard, have fun. The first thing I remember was like, just how many people were like in the stadium and like usually walk into the stadium and there's not many people. There's a few security guards and whatever. And I think it was like one little line that we could get through because there was just media everywhere. And obviously he had family and friends and the Lakers themselves, and warming up on the court, like the media was from the 3-point line to the 3-point line, taking that whole middle of the court up. And they were all facing the other end. So we would have had all these guys' backs to us, like trying to warm up. And then, yeah, like I said, we got a pair of kind of limited edition Kobe's with the date of the game on it, embroidered in like gold stitching and stuff like that, which was awesome, and very, very lucky to get them signed by him after the game, which was something obviously I'll obviously keep forever. But yeah, just an unreal experience. I guess playing him a few times before that, you try not to get caught up in the moment, but I remember sitting there on the bench sometimes like, this is unbelievable. Like I think he took like 50 shots or something like that, 51 shots, got 60 or 61, whatever. Just an unreal night. And to be a part of it, there's a few photos that float around that our Jazz guys had that of like me guarding him and stuff that you just kind of, I mean, I would have held on to it and loved it forever anyway. And then obviously since the helicopter crash, it just means even more to you. It's something that I'll forever be grateful for that I got to play against him. There's even like funny things of like him knowing my name one time, like he called me Joe, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy knows my name. Like things like that you, again, like you said, you kind of look back at the end of your career, but yeah, some pretty cool moments playing against him and being around him. So I'm very, very lucky.
I've watched highlights and watched that game back a couple of times. Like I know Pete Crawford, a fellow teammate, he flew over for it. I've watched it back, and just the ending of that game, like he couldn't have scripted it any better. Like down by whatever they were down, for him, I know he shot a lot of shots, like a ridiculous. I think he shot 60 shots to get 60 points, but just the way that ended, to have like the big shots, you know, the game-winning shots, basically to end your career, I think was just amazing.
One of the crazy part too, which isn't very public or known, is we were like the only team. The Jazz were like one of the only teams that he hadn't had over 50 on up to that point. So like it's got his like career totals against every team, and it was always like 51, 57, 81, like whatever it was. And we were like the only team that he hadn't had it on, and he ended up bagging 60 on us in the last game. But yeah, like I said, it was something that I'll never forget it, and obviously I'll watch it back kind of one day when I am retired and be very lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah. Did you ever think coming out of Adelaide you'd be a 3-time Olympian, 3-time world championship player for the national team?
Never, no.
You remember the first time you were given your singlet, and who gave it to you?
I don't remember who gave it to me. I remember getting it, obviously. I played in 2007 in the lead-up kind of tournament or whatever it was. We went on a trip somewhere. End of that trip, I got cut. Obviously didn't make the team, but that was kind of my first experience with the Boomers.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, obviously in 2008, I was like determined that I wasn't going to get cut again after being kind of like, I think out of the 12, it was like 13 or 14 left. There was like 2 of us that got cut on that trip. And it was like, I'm never going to, this isn't happening again, especially when, not that it's a bad thing because he's a really good friend, but like watching Paddy play and how good he was in that qualifying series against New Zealand, and was like, man, I wish I was there with him. And we were kind of young guys at that time. So got to 08 and was probably one of the most nervous things I've ever been through, sitting in that room. And I think it was like the way we did it back then was you sit in the room and they call out the team, like with everybody in the room. So you're like hoping that like you don't have to walk out and like.
That's old school.
Yeah, it was super old school, but it was kind of cool instead of like setting up meetings or trying to call people or email. Like there's a lot of ways people have done it since I've been involved now, but it was just like, this is a team, and it was Gorge. So he was just like pretty upfront with everything, as you know. And I remember staying in that room and just was like one of the best feelings ever to put that jersey on and represent Australia. Me and Paddy were both 20 in Beijing, so it was very special.
I'm not sure which way I'd prefer, or like everyone in a room and you hear your name, privately going into a room and finding yes or no. Or I remember Brett Brown called me over the phone when I was on the Gold Coast to tell me I made the London Olympic team. I'm not sure. I don't know which. I think I prefer the call. Like, I
don't know if there's like a good way to do it. I know Renee and I have talked about it a bit, because the Diamonds, I think they do it via phone call. So you all go away and you've all got a kind of time slot. And I guess at least you're not with everyone. Like, so if you don't make it, you don't have to be upset, or like, I've obviously seen guys cry and how much it means to them. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's a good way to do it or not.
So you make the Beijing Olympics, like young kid, you don't play too much, but the game against USA, the last quarter, you play the whole quarter. I think you 11 points. Three threes
in the layup.
3. Like that may have, put you on the radar. Who knows? Like a lot of players get picked up from having big international tournaments or big games or whatever. I know you've told me the CP3 story where he said he can buy your whole family. When was that? And just talk me through that story again.
Well, I was obviously feeling pretty good going into the last, like halfway through the last quarter. I hit a couple of threes, and I mean, you know me, when I'm on call, a lot of people, I get into the game. I tend to talk a bit of junk and, just get into it. It's probably kind of a little off topic, but I really just love what I do. And I like, when I'm out there, I smile, I have fun and enjoy it. And I was probably doing too much of that, and Chris had probably no idea, which is funny that I ended up going to the Clippers a lot later, but a few years later. I can't even exactly, but it was like something about how much I make or something like that. And I was like, I think I even told him, I was like 60 grand or something like that. Like, and he's like, oh, like looking at me like, really? And I was like, I thought I was doing all right. We went back and forth a little bit, and he said something about like, not like buying my family, because obviously it's a weird thing to say, but like, I've got enough money to do like whatever. And I was like, cool, like me too at the moment. I've got 60 grand. I'm 20 years old. Like I thought I was living the dream. Got a free XR6 from the Dragons. I was living the dream. So it was a lot of fun to, like you said, I didn't play at all really that tournament, a couple minutes here and there, but to get in and just experience it, to play, and obviously against America, and that team was pretty unreal. That the Team USA had was probably my first taste of like really playing for Australia that quarter.
I'll get back to the Aussie team and Olympic stuff. We'll stay in the trash talk a little bit, because you are very lippy. There's not a 10-minute patch will go by where you can't throw in a bit of chirp or like talk a bit of shit or give some juice back. Obviously, we see everything on TV. The stuff with Paul George, like you unbelievably got under his skin and hit him like that. But it's kind of like, well, once they kind of bite back a little bit, it's like you're reeling in a big marlin, right? So tell me through that PG thing. Like obviously, you just enjoy it and love the game, and if he's gonna obviously give it back, then it's easier, right? Yeah,
I mean, going into that series, like, I mean, if you look at the team that they had that year, like their team was unreal, and I thought our team was really good, but I think they were favourites. And I remember the first game, it was like, Joe, you're going to guard Paul George, and I'm like, let's be honest, like this dude's way better than me. Like I'm very realistic with who I am as a player. Like if any team's picking me or him, like 99.999, unless Brett or Gorge or Quinn's the coach, like I'm not getting picked. And probably still not. But yeah, and obviously for me, it was like, well, figuring out different ways that I could just, like I said, like offensively, even defensively, unbelievable. But offensively, he's so gifted that like, how can I mess up the game and like junk up the game to get him thinking about like me instead of Westbrook or Steven Adams or whatever. I think they had Melo that year as well. And it didn't really work the first game because he had like 38 or something. And I still remember Quinn pulled me in the next morning and was like, we're going to start someone else on Paul George. You're going to take like Roberson or something, or whoever was the 2 or the 3 at that time. And I was like, no. Like, give me one more chance. Like, I know it's very different in the playoffs because you've got this like long series and you know everyone's offense. And once you play someone, you're like, you feel their tendencies a bit more. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. Like, I know what I'm doing. And he gave me a second chance, thankfully. And yeah, I just wanted to mess up the game. Like I wanted to make him be so worried about me and not like the team and kind of be so locked in on me. And I just jumped up the game. I stood like I could smell his breath every possession. Like that's how close I was to him. Full court. Like if he was, my sushi just got here. Bringing up the ball, walking down the court, like wherever he was, like inbounding the ball until the referee gave it to him. I would stand like right in front of him and just try to again, like with some of these guys, like it's NBA, like there's certain guys like they're gonna take 20, 25 shots. Like you can only limit them so much. And I think we got double text a few times and just really try, like I said, just try to junk it up and I definitely still to this day, like people I still get it on like Twitter all the time, like, oh, Paul George this and that. And I'm like, me defending him was a very small part of like what we did to win the series. He still averaged like 20 or 25 a game, which obviously in the playoffs is pretty special. But we played really well in that last game and he didn't play well in the last game. And that's kind of all it takes at some points.
I know you've had some stuff with Jimmy Butler. You guys are getting texts, and I heard
this is great.
I heard on the podcast as well. You two were kind of double tech fouls a little bit, and before one game, he came up to you or vice versa and kind of just said, "Hey Joe," like, talk me through that real quick.
So funny. I was actually like very intimidated by him for a long time because he's like he's an unbelievable defender, aggressive. Like you see him on court, he's like just watching him in a game. You're like, you don't want to. There's no way I'm going to get in a fight with him or try and get in a scuffle. Like, and there was one possession that I tried to beat him over a screen and we kind of hit, and I fell down. He didn't fall down at all. And he stood over the top of me, and I was like, the look in his eye, I was like, oh my gosh. And I'll forever be thankful for Trevor Booker, who ran over and like grabbed him off me before he was about to like, who knows what he was going to do. But yeah, we went through a stage of like 5, 6, 7 games in a row. He's always been in the East Coast, so I'd already only play him like once or twice a year. Double tech every game, double tech. And I think it was when he was with Philly or something, and he came up to me and was like, I always stretch in the kind of top right corner before the game, and he came up and was like, can we just not get teed up today? And I was like, same thing. It's kind of like Kobe, like you're like, oh, like he kind of knows your name, like whatever. Yeah, and then ever since then, we've got along really well. He's a massive coffee drinker, which is something we've always talked about. And in the bubble there in our hotel, we saw him all the time. And yeah, really, really good. Look, I actually was saying if there was like anyone in the off season I'd want to work out with, like he would be one of them. And now that we don't hate each other, I might get an invite.
Well, he's taken Tyler Hero under his wing. Like, he seems like he loves helping out the young guys, but we won't dig into that. Another one that's kind of been out, like Terrence Ferguson, right? Played with Adelaide 36ers. I think he hit a shot on him, talked a bit of rubbish to him as well. And rumour has it that you two are arguing over where the best coffee shop was in Adelaide.
Does he drink coffee? There's no way he drinks coffee.
He probably doesn't, but don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So you and T. Ferg obviously had a little bit of a beat, a little bit of a run-in, but was that over coffee? Like, I think Mother's Milk in Unley's not too bad, but over coffee.
That is a great spot. I actually have no idea. Like, there's this stupid photo of me, like, looking at him, like, yelling something. And I look like an absolute idiot in the photo. But I have no idea, like, what happened or how it happened. Obviously, we'd gotten into it some games before or something had happened, but I don't usually like go into a game like planning to like scream at someone or talk smack or anything. So usually something will happen in the game and we'll just kind of start and then it just takes off wherever it goes to. It's a weird one because I like obviously at the time he'd just come from Adelaide and I'm from Adelaide and everyone was asking like what happened. And I still like he might know. You might have to get him on and ask him. But no, I actually really like the kid. Really good player. So I don't really know what happened.
I'm going to stick with it to best coffee shop in Adelaide.
We'll stick with Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk's a great spot. Might have been Nutrition Republic. I was going to inviting him to Nutrition Republic with me.
All right, back to the Aussie team. Obviously, the disappointment of Worlds was crazy for all basketball, like all of Australia. Like to lose those last 2 games, the one against Spain, obviously that must have really cut deep. But looking forward, obviously Tokyo, Paddy's not held back in saying gold's the only, like, we're going for gold. Like, you guys have had a core group of players now together for a long stretch of time. Do you kind of see this as like a last kind of window for this core group of you guys? I mean, you might want to go on, Paddy might as well. Who knows in that stretch of time, but obviously Tokyo gold is a goal for you Boomers, moving forward. And the group you've got, the group you had at Worlds, but, you add in Dante, you add in Brockhoff, Ben Simmons. I think Matisse Seibel could be a great piece with Brett Brown. Like, that's – if Bogut goes on, who knows? But that group, aiming for gold, potentially a last chance.
Definitely. I don't say last chance only because you just never know with these things. And Paddy and I have spoken about it a little bit. Like, you just don't – playing for Australia, as you know, being involved for so long as well, like, you just – if they told me at 36 I could get to camp and potentially make the team, or 35 or 37 or whatever age I'd be, like, I'm going to go and try and make it a 5th. Like, why not? So, I mean, it's what we saw. We went through kind of Dave Anderson's phase of it. Like, everyone thought every year, like, oh, he'll be done and he would just come back in great shape and be playing well and consistent. just always kind of like chugging along doing those stupid toe exercises he did every day. But yeah, Tokyo's obviously kind of in the foremind of your thinking, and you put everything into that. Like it's always hard to think about national team when you're with your club team, because you're so invested in playoffs, your individual self, the team trying to win. But yeah, Paddy was probably the first one a couple of years ago or whatever to say like gold is what we need to do and have the goal, and everyone's embraced it. And I think it's helped us taken kind of where we were with the Australian team to that next level. And like I said, we've been right there so many times now, which is so frustrating, because I think that the drive is to be that first men's team, basketball team, to bring home not just a medal, but a gold medal. Why not make the first one gold? And then even once our kind of group of our age is done, like that next core group of those younger guys is so good. So yeah, gold is what we're aiming for. Hopefully with whatever's going on in the world now, that things kind of settle down and we can go and play and compete. Very excited to hopefully play with all those guys you said. Like I said, we've had that kind of core group for a while now, and we've added different pieces each kind of year or whatever. Yeah, but to hopefully get Ben involved would just be massive. Matisse, like you said, if I'm not sure exactly what has to happen or whatever, but if he can get in, Dante, all these guys that weren't there. Brokoff was having a baby at the time, which is obviously very understandable. Get everyone together, and with Brett now obviously taking over, yeah, we'll go in very confident, obviously.
That's some names that were not in that group that could have made a massive difference. Like Brokoff, for example, just lights out three-point shooter, like space on the floor. You know, Ben, Ossie, Dante. It's obviously been visible knowing the group and being a part of it, but the mindset shift, obviously it's a lot easier now with a lot of you guys in the NBA playing against NBA quality players. But I remember back in 2012 was like, you need to, and it's hard to just say it, but you need to stop looking at these guys like NBA players and being in awe and being like, these are beatable. You know, like you obviously beat the USA team in Melbourne, but just that mindset shift of like, yeah, like it's Kobe or it's Kevin Durant or it's James, whoever it is, but you're the same. Like, yeah, they're in the NBA, but I think that's where we're at now.
Not Space Jam.
That's right. They're not the monsters, like you said in another podcast. Like, everyone's human, everyone's beatable. And I think that's where and why we can have success is because that mindset shift has changed and anyone's beatable.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember in 2008, that third quarter or fourth quarter, whatever it was that I played, like I was so amused at like Chris Paul's shoes and LeBron's headband and whatever they were doing. It was the first time playing against these guys for me. And I think that was not always a distraction for our team or future past teams or whatever, but yeah, I think everyone assumed like they were just unbeat. Like there was no chance anyone was going to beat them. And obviously a few teams had success back then against them. And I definitely think it helps when when I first, like in 2008, I think Bogut was our only NBA player. So we're like NBL or Europe or whatever, flip it a couple of Olympics like in the future, and we've got like one or two NBL players, maybe a guy from Europe. We got like 8, 9, 10. Like you could potentially have 12 NBA players in Tokyo. And I think just seeing them daily, seeing like what they're not good at, seeing what they are really good at, like realizing, like you said, they're humans. There's only 5 of them out there. It's not 12 on 5. Like it's 5 on 5, and we've got 5 NBA players, and you've got 5 NBA players. Like let's see. And I think Australia's always had that mindset of like never giving up, not backing down. You're going to kind of fight till the last whistle, regardless. But to then add what we always play with as a country, how we always play with every sport, and then you add on that confidence of like we know we can beat these guys. I mean, I can't remember the last time now going into a game against anyone with the national team that I've been like, oh no, like we're not going to win this. So we've had a chance every game I've played in for the last however many tournaments I've been a part of.
I think it's definitely in a good position. I think Brett Brown's a great coach to have with so many potentially NBA players. So to bring him back, I love working with him in London, Turkey, whatever. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed that gold happens, and definitely a medal. So it's all shaping.
Brett would be great.
What's that?
No, Brett would be great. I think it's a great addition. I think, like you said, with all these NBA guys and the style, and I'm like you. Like for me, he was one of the first. I loved Marty. I loved Hammer and Gorge, and they were all kind of very quick, small parts of my life. But that, for some reason, that first stint with Brett for me was like the first time that someone had like pushed me and really made me believe, like, probably too much, that I could be a really good player. I was like the most confident I've ever been, I think. And I was like, I don't know how he did it or what he said to me, but it was just like this thing that he did. And I've always said, like, him and Quinn are two of the biggest reasons I am where I am today with the coaching they've given me.
I still have a place card that Brett wrote, handwritten note, basically saying, thanks for your time, like, good luck moving forward, like, work on this. And I still have it in a box somewhere. I think just that kind of genuine care and wanting you to get better as an individual, I think, is why and I know he's copping this grief in Philly, but they had a shit team. Like,
it's definitely not his fault.
It's not his fault. Like, unbelievable coach. And I think that's why you guys will have success in Tokyo. So I think he's going to be the perfect coach to bring that group forward. I know something that you're super passionate about. I know Paddy is the We Got You campaign. Obviously, racism in sport it's real, and it's always pops up. And Eddie Betts, and I've talked to Pete Sippel on here about it. But you're passionate about being a part of that and trying to help stop racism in sport. Yeah,
I think when obviously being so close to Paddy and seeing him way too regularly during the regular season, eating with him and stuff, that you have these conversations, and sometimes it's basketball, sometimes it's Olympics, and we would always talk about random things, and this was always a topic that would come up. Something had happened in the AFL the night before or whatever it was. And when he explained what the kind of goal was with it, I was like, I remember texting him like, dude, I'll be as involved as you want me to be. I'll stand there with you and do everything I can possibly do. Obviously, it's hard when we are so far away from Australia. But yeah, I wanted to kind of stand with him and be that, not support, because as you know, Paddy's the last guy that needs other people's support, because if he's passionate about something, he'll get it done. But to be there with him and support him and have his back, and like you said, it's real. I still wake up every day now and flick on the Herald Sun, and there's always stuff in there, and it's so sad that it's so entrenched in sport and Australia, and obviously what's going on here in America too. So it was awesome to kind of start that first little campaign that we did. I had our whole Jazz team wearing the shirts and the hats and talking about it, and Quinn was all over it. He loved it, and it's obviously something we're very aware that it's not going to flip and change overnight. It's something that has to be the education part. Like I've known Paddy since we were 15, 16, whatever, and the conversations we've had and the in-depth we've got. Even watching that video he put up a couple months ago in the bubble of how open he got, it's real, and people need to listen to these guys telling these stories and really try and, I don't think you'll ever fully grasp what they've been through, but to try and understand as best you can, and like I said, support and shut it down when you see it or hear it. Like, you see it so often in sport, and I've made a real effort to I guess to try and shut it down, but at times it's overwhelming. You don't want to say the wrong thing. So that was one of my biggest things with Paddy going into this. Like, I want to be so educated on it that I know what I'm talking about. I don't want to sit here with you and say the wrong thing and offend anybody. So he's been unreal, kind of being the forefront of it and getting the guys and girls involved that he has. And like I said, it's something that you said that's real, and that we're obviously trying to take steps to get rid of it.
Just trying to influence change, right, and provide a safe environment for, more so the young kids coming forward and the vulnerable athletes, I guess, to deal with it day to day.
Yeah, and I think that what Paddy's done too a little bit with getting these guys, girls, women, men, husbands, wives, whoever it is, to tell some stories. Like I've listened to some stuff since that, and listening to it, it's hard to listen to it if you really listen to what they're talking about. So yeah, just really trying to dive into that, and obviously especially now with a bit of downtime here in Utah, kind of connect back with him and figure out what we can do next to keep kind of pushing the message along.
Well, it's obviously going to take everyone to jump on board. Going to change it up a couple of gears. Now, this is actually this is a ripper. When I heard this, I was bemused. I'm not a classical car kind of guy, but I understand you can't drive a manual car. Now, growing up Happy Valley, like I know growing up on a farm, I was taught to drive a manual.
Happy Valley is different to a farm, mate. We got 24-hour McDonald's, Subway.
There's not a lot goes on in Adelaide, let me tell you. Now, I understand you can't drive a manual, so your beautiful wife, Renee, surprised you with a Mustang, classic Mustang, maybe for a birthday or anniversary. I'm not sure when it was.
Birthday.
And for your birthday, and you couldn't drive it, so you had it converted to automatic. Now, all the car lovers out there are scratching their head going, what is wrong with this human being? But what happened, mate? You didn't want to go and take some lessons to learn how to drive a manual instead of changing a classic? So
let's get a couple of things straight first. I can drive a manual. I'm just not like, if you told me to, like, right now, get in the car and drive from here to the stadium, because if you don't get there, you're going to lose your job. Like, I'm going to get there in a manual car
with no clutch left.
I might have whiplash from the stalling, but I just wasn't confident, very confident at all. I obviously probably could have used the time and learned, but I was also very impatient and I wanted to drive it right away. And I had done a lot of research. So it used to be Mark Cowan's Mustang, and Renee had reached out to him. Mark Cowan was the Dragons owner at the time. Reached out to him and said that I'd always talked about him. She wanted to get me one, and he had actually just sold the one that I ended up getting. But he was like, "This is the one that Joe, like, he used to be in his garage when I lived there." So I was like, he knew I loved it. So we ended up buying it off the person. No, he bought it back off them, and then we bought it off him, or Renee did. So I did a lot of research before changing it to make sure I wasn't going to mess anything up, and that if I wanted to put it back, which I will one day, that it wasn't going to mess anything up or whatever. But being home for like 2 months a year, I wanted to be able to like look super cool and drive it. So cost me a couple bucks and I got it changed. And Bogut still is like, gives me death stares every time about it, because he brings up, he's obviously a big car guy too, and a guy that I speak to a lot about these kind of things. And so beautiful car, beautiful. Drives really well.
I was going to bring up Andrew Bogut because he took us, Boomer's trip in Melbourne, took us to his warehouse, all the old school cars, classic cars, everything, unbelievable collection. And I know he would have given you all kinds of. I'm surprised he let you do it. Like,
I didn't tell him until I'd already done it. I said to him, I remember asking him and Cowan about it, like, would it mess up the car if like I did it and then wanted to put it back? And obviously in those old school cars, there's not much going on the inside. And they were like, no, it's not going to. Cowan obviously he kept telling me not to, but he also said it also will not affect the car. I didn't end up telling Bogut until after, and then he was heavily disappointed in me. But unbelievable car, 65 Mustang. It's a little bit of a hobby. I'll never go over the top. Like Bogut had this warehouse of a ridiculous amount of them. I'll have a couple, but yeah, just a few, probably 2 or 3 that I really like. That'll be one. And I'll be driving the manual all around Melbourne when I retire.
People will be shaking their head like, what is this clown doing? Now, fashion in the NBA, it's big time. Like, some people just go overboard. Are you ever going to not wear Chuck Taylors and a black hat with some sweats to a game ever? Like, I reckon for the last 15 years, every time I've seen you on a black hat, Chucks, and
black jeans.
Black jeans. That's it. Is there anything else? Like, Renee must love you because you don't spend any money on clothes.
She has tried probably too many times I could take you up there now. I've got a full wardrobe of like really nice clothes. I'm pretty basic guy. Like I wear plain. I don't like these guys that wear like fluoro color whatever and like tie dye whatever. And I think Westbrook went in like overalls and a tank top. Like we had Jordan Clarkson on our team this year, he wore leather pants and a wife beater to a game in the bubble. And I was like, it's like 400 degrees. Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, I'm just a real plain, like, my first couple of years I did not like dress up, but there was actually a dress code. So you had to wear like jeans with no rips or like slack or like dress pants with a button up or a collared shirt. And so I did it my first couple of years, and then they changed the dress code because guys wanted to, it was their personality. It was a way of kind of expressing themselves, and the NBA agreed that it was fine. And what people don't get of like the reasoning a little bit is we roll like, first of all, I live in Utah. I live 10 minutes from where we play. When we usually have the season, it's like 3 foot high of snow. Like, what am I going to get dressed up for? I'm driving there, and then I'm driving back to here to eat dinner and go to bed. Like, I can just sleep in my sweats. I'm good. Like, and then on the road, you go from your hotel on this like super uncomfortable little bus, get out, get changed, be all sweaty and nasty, get back on the bus and either go to the hotel to eat and whatever and recover, or you go to sit on a plane for 3 hours or 2 hours.
You make great points.
To then get off the plane and go to the hotel on another uncomfortable little bus.
Like, you make great points. What's one thing you miss about living in Australia?
Probably, family and friends.
Toughest player you've had to guard in the NBA?
I've always had. I knew you were going to ask this question. I've always got this answer. I've got two. When I first came to the league, it was Carmelo. He was playing the 3 then at New York and was like 3-pointer, mid-range, post. He gave me like 12 straight one game, and I didn't play for like 3 games straight. And then more recently, Kevin Durant. Obviously, when he's healthy, I'd probably beat him with 1 foot. But yeah, healthy Kevin Durant is very tough.
Favorite Olympics?
All of them. Probably, I mean, Beijing being the first one. But they've all played a special part. Obviously, every year getting better and better, having a chance to win. The best one will be hopefully Tokyo coming home with the gold.
Love that. Last one, a lot of people have asked this. I put up a thing online, asked Joe a question about finishing your career in the NBL. Now, obviously, who knows what's going to happen. You'd love to just keep playing the NBA for as long as possible. But, you know, a dream of finishing up, playing one more year in the NBL, coming back and finish where you started?
Yeah, I get it. I get this question a lot. I've always said that I would love to finish in the NBL. Bloody Ralph, eating the couch. I would love to finish in the NBL. Like you said, it's where I started. It would be awesome to finish in front of family and friends. And I mean, by then, who knows what age I will be, but having the twins at whatever age, like really understanding basketball and to have them in the crowd regardless is awesome, but to have them like hanging around would be really cool. The thing that gets me as well is like, I've got 2 more years. I'll be 35 at the end of that. Obviously I'm not getting any quicker or slower anyway, so that's not going to change or athletic. The thing that would keep us probably in the States a bit longer, if I wasn't playing or not, is Jacob's therapy. It's so good here. And by that point, he'll be kind of 6 at the end of my contract. If they had said he's ready to go into mainstream school, which is a goal, we'd probably come back after these couple of years, depending on what it was. A lot of it now, as boring as an answer as it is depending on what my family wants to do, what Renee wants to do, what the twins want to do. I don't want to be that parent, especially when you get later in your career, you get traded, you move around. Yeah. I don't want to be pulling the kids out of school, making new friends, I want to have as stable professional career as possible, which is obviously hard to do. But I would love to win a championship over here and obviously with Utah, but I'm also would be very content with what I've done after coming over on a non-guarantee 5.5 years ago. So, we'll see where it kind of goes. I would love to stay in the NBA. I would love to play in the NBL. As boring as it is too, I'd probably only play in Melbourne unless someone did some really high-level recruiting. But yeah, we'll see where we go. If you're coaching, you could be a head coach by then. I might be.
I'll get to that in a minute. Because like myself, my game's not reliant on speed or athleticism. It never has. I couldn't jump over a 10-cent piece. So
you got a couple dunks.
One, as long as the mind keeps ticking, then I feel like you can play for a long time. Like you could easily come back and play a bit of 4, a bit of 3, spot up, shoot. Like, I mean, Gazy backed down from full court for how many years? Like, you could for sure come and do that. But I mean, if you're not going to come back and play and retire, this is where I see it going. I see you buying a team. By this time, I'll probably be retired, so I'll be a head coach. I'll be a head coach. We'll be supplied by MG cars, so we'll all be rolling around in these nice little MGs.
They're small, aren't they?
No, mate, there's that much room. Like, the roof opens it's like a convertible, but it's not. Like, unbelievable car, mate. So when you come back to Melbourne,
they must be a great sponsor.
MG will, trust me, they will hook you up. Kmart will deck us out. We'll have Hungry Jacks on deck.
I will be playing the 5 if I eat all the Hungry Jacks and wearing Kmart
but that's
shoes.
fine. No, it's good for you. Healthy burgers, healthy buns.
Isn't that where Gazy sold his shoes at Kmart?
Kmart, unbelievable. Bunnings all day, every day. If you ever need to do some, put a little thing together for Jacob in the backyard, build your house. Now you want to renovate. Like, I've got it sorted. So come back, buy that team. I'll be your coach, and that's it.
I mean, I guess my life's sorted, ready to go.
Well, mine's sorted because of you, so I appreciate it.
No, I wouldn't mind getting involved with a team one day. We've talked about it a little bit. I had a guy who's one of the potential Wollongong buyers give me a call about it, but it would just have to be the right time. I think if I was involved in that, I would want to be hands-on and be there and be especially being an ex-player, help the guys on the court. I obviously wouldn't step foot on coaching or step on, if you hire a coach, I believe that you should let the coach do their job. And if they're not good enough, you fire them, but you let them do their job. But wouldn't mind getting involved. I definitely would be involved somehow, whether it's playing part owner or owner or whatever, somewhat involved because I'm very lucky what basketball's given me. So I'd love to give back. I just don't have to shout out 9 sponsors after what I say.
No, just giving them some love, mate. This is how the NBL works. This is how we roll. This is how we're so successful and we're moving forward. The growth, we're relying on our major sponsors.
You know what I do remember is when I went to Townsville, for my recruiting visit, Newley took me out, and Townsville was sponsored by McDonald's. I don't know if they still were.
They're gone now. We're all about Hungry Jacks now. That's it. It's all that matters.
But we went because he had his little gift card or whatever it was. We ate McDonald's 4 times in the day that I was there. And I was like, Newley, you could be it was already really good in the NBL. Imagine if you weren't eating McDonald's 5 meals a day. But now it's all about Burger King.
All about Hungry Jacks.
Hungry Jacks, sorry.
All we care about is Hungry Jacks. That is it. Naming the right sponsor for years.
How many years ago?
Well, I think they just signed a 5-year deal. So by the time you come back and own a new team, mate, they'll be heavily involved. Let me tell you.
You can just give me a franchise and I'll be back.
There we go. We'll talk to Mr. Jack.
Come on, Jack.
Mate, really appreciate it. I know we went a little bit longer, but when you start talking to what you've done in your career, and it's still obviously going, but I know when you look back to championships in the NBL, Europe, NBA for years, Olympic, endless amounts of basketball plus off court, mate, it's pretty impressive. So appreciate you taking time to jump on board and talk to us. We really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's always good. It's hard to always stay as connected as you want to connect, but it's good. You're doing an unreal job. I've watched a few of these, so might be stealing Drew's job as a commentator by the end of this.
You never know, mate. Homicide better watch out. But
that would be hard to take.
I appreciate it, Joey. good looking out.
No worries at all.
Best over there. Say hi to the family, and we'll catch up soon when you come back to the NBL.
We'll do. Appreciate it, mate.